There may never be an exact figure, but today's call for a people's vote took over central London. The vast majority were Remain voters, but angry, frustrated and despairing ones. At one stage, the demonstration from end to end was 2 miles long.
There are hundreds of thousands of people here. It may be the largest people's demonstration ever. It might nudge the debate. In 2003, Tony Blair dismissed a similar-sized anti-Iraq war demonstration as misguided. The question today, 16 years on, is whether, in the face of such numbers, Theresa May can do the same.
What do we want? People's vote! When do we want it? Now!
The message was clear, even if there were doubts about its ultimate effect.
Think this is going to make any difference?
I mean, probably not, but I mean, I really hope it does. Yeah, I don't really know. People power is probably the only thing we have left, so we'll give it a good go. If not, I'll see if I can get a Estonian passport or something like that.
As you can see, 12 of them, and they're the future of this country, and they need the opportunity to actually go and live and work in Europe.
I don't want to leave the EU because I want a better future, and I don't want to be out of the EU because I don't like Brexit.
Why?
Because then we won't have a connection with the EU and lots of people won't be able to come and work here and stuff. And apparently we'll have a lot less money.
What does it feel to be British in the current climate?
I'm ashamed. It's a shambles. I am absolutely disgusted with the state of things. And I do, whenever we do meet people abroad, I do try and say, look, I'm sorry, I didn't vote for this. And I'm very cross indeed about the whole thing.
Leave, please, leave.
Equally as cross, although less visible, were a couple of hundred marchers 140 miles away, protesting not for a second vote, but to honour the first.
It is an outright betrayal, because Mrs May now tells us we're not leaving next Friday, despite telling us over 100 times that we would be, despite putting a piece of law in place supported by 500 MPs that said we would be.
Another absentee from London's huge protest was the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. It was left to the party's deputy leader Tom Watson to make the case for another vote.
Well, have a look out of your window, Prime Minister. Open your curtains. Turn on the television. Look at this magnificent crowd today. Here are the people.
Next week, we'll see what impressions, if any, today's protests will leave. All sides appear entrenched, with the Prime Minister's Brexit policy and her future hanging by a thread, as Lord Heseltine warned today's audience.
I may be naive, but if something is wrong, I look first at the person in charge.
A Pinocchio effigy of that person was at today's march, symbolic perhaps for the many who came of a breakdown in trust.
Well, the Labour MP Liz Kendall, who was on that march, is in Westminster and joins me now. Liz Kendall, the day after the EU referendum, you said to the 52% of people who voted leave, we hear you. You're not listening to them today, are you?
I don't agree with that at all. I know that people voted to leave for many different reasons, but the deal that Theresa May has put forward isn't what they were promised. And, you know, it's a worse deal than we've got now. And the truth is, it doesn't solve Brexit. It actually means the uncertainty is going to go on forever. And, you know, I have slowly come to the view that the only way we're going to get out of this mess is to put it back to the people. As my friend, the MP for Sedgefield, Phil Wilson, says, it started with the people, it's going to have to end with the people.
OK, sorry to interrupt you. This call for a referendum is really about remaining in the EU. So why not honestly campaign for that instead of just campaigning for a mechanism that gets us there?
Well, if we do get a vote on whatever Parliament agrees as the Brexit deal, then I would campaign for Remain. But, you know, we have to find a way out of this mess. And what was so positive and hopeful about today's march is that there is a solution, which is to put Theresa May's deal to the public in a vote. As Tom Watson, our deputy leader, said today, if she were agree to that, we'd let her agreement go through. So we have to find a way out. And I think it is right in principle that people are given a say, because what is on offer now is so very different from what was promised in 2016.
The Mayor of London has said that he now favours revoking Article 50. I believe 4 million people have signed this petition. Do you agree with them, and do you agree with him?
I would rather that we didn't end up having to revoke Article 50 to stop a no-deal Brexit, which I do think would be really risky and damaging for the country. Because, as I say, ultimately, it is the people of this country who have to decide, look, you were promised Brexit, you were promised all sorts of things about it, here is the reality of what's on offer. Do you want to do that or stick with the deal we currently have? So that, I think, is by far the best way forward.
So what should the question be? What sort of referendum do you favour?
I think whatever deal Parliament ends up agreeing, whether it's Theresa May's deal, whether it's a customs union, whether it's a sort of Norway-type arrangement, or indeed if it was a Canada free trade deal, that should be put to the people, because at least now we know the facts, the reality and what it really is. Because you will remember all of this, Fatima, that at the time people were promised we could leave and have all the same benefits, that we held all the cards, that we'd have 40 trade deals done the minute that we left, and none of that has turned out to be true. So put the reality of Brexit back to the public to see if that's what they really want.
Is there any form of Brexit that you would accept? Your colleagues, Lucy Powell and Stephen Kinnock, are pushing a softer, so-called Norway option. Could you get behind that?
Yes, if it's put to the public. You know, I think Brexit has always been a choice between staying as close as possible in the single market and customs union to protect jobs and prevent a hard border in Ireland, but giving up our say over the rules, or cutting all ties and with all the risks and uncertainty that brings. Those are the inevitable choices about Brexit. And I think we have to be honest in Parliament and with the public about that and say, this is the reality, which one do you want, or do you want to stick with what we've got?
OK, just very quickly, are you disappointed that your leader, Jeremy Corbyn, wasn't there with you today?
Yes, I mean, I would have liked him to have been there, and every Labour MP. It was really important for me to see Tom Watson there, rightly making the case that the only way out of this mess is going to be to give it to the public, and also, you know, challenging the Prime Minister, who has tried to pit Parliament against the public. Look, I don't think everybody in the country agrees with what the people here on this march think. I would never dream of saying there is one public with one view that remains the same over time. There are different people with different opinions, and in Parliament we are grappling with these very difficult decisions. We are trying to do our best and represent our constituents.
Thanks very much, Liz Kendall. Thank you.